Hello, movie nerds, and welcome back to Cinematic Sarcastic, a podcast that talks all things movies and television. I'm Natalie, and I'm your host. On today's episode, we are going to leap into Antman and the Wasp: Quantumania. Now, I think we all pretty much at this point know that the Marvel movies are kind of what they are. We're not getting anything great out of any of them. I am hoping that they will take another direction when we start getting into the phase 5. The fact that these are all done in phases is horrifying to me, because that just in and of itself kind of screams that they're doing it as a cash grab and not as we have a plan to make like a great universe, like build out some great films. And I think I probably stopped really enjoying these movies a long time ago. I don't. Now, as far as Antman and the Wasp: Quantumania goes, I think it is surprisingly, well, maybe not surprisingly, it's mediocre. It isn't terrible. It isn't great. It kind of just is. It's entertaining if you want, 2 hours. If you want to go out, go to the theater, get some snacks, hang out with your family. It's something that you can definitely, take your whole family to. It's not going to be too over the top or anything of that nature. I feel like for me, I have enjoyed the Antman movies in the same order that they have come out. Like the first Antman movie, I very much liked, and it was kind of along the same lines, I feel like, as the very first couple of Iron Man movies that came out. Like there was a good balance of humor and action. There was still a good balance of CGI. And then as soon as you get to like the third film, I'm surprised there are any actual people in these movies at this point, because 99% of the film is just CGI, which is fine. That's fine. It's not like I'm against CGI. Something like Avatar, 99% of that is CGI, but it's beautiful CGI. And it comes with a relatively decent story, and just the graphics alone and how he builds that into a world. Like there is world building there. Now, I did enjoy the villain in this one. Kang the Conqueror was introduced in this movie, but beyond that, I didn't really find it that enjoyable. It was, I don't know what I was expecting here, because I know I wasn't expecting it to be groundbreaking. I don't think there's been a really decent Marvel film in a while. I think that's kind of why I enjoyed Black Adam so much, is because it kind of shifted the gears a little bit. I think Black Adam was definitely one of my favorite like DC films, because I've enjoyed the DC films much less than I've enjoyed the Marvel films. But I feel like I really just need or want back, I guess, in my own personal opinion, I want back kind of the original Marvel films. The ones from, I would assume, phase 1, where all of these characters were new and the movies were still being made with intent. Whereas Quantumania kind of just feels like a cookie cutter. Like it's just a different villain this time, but it's basically the same story as last time. Like they're in the quantum verse and they have to get out of the quantum verse, and I don't know how many times you can do that before it just gets a little old. And this one, I think, for me, it felt a little bit like there was just too much CGI, and that is to say that like the majority of the characters and the majority of the stuff going on, obviously because it is in the quantum realm, you can't really create that in real life, right? There are a lot of creatures and things going on that need CGI. And that sort of breaks you out of the story a bit, or at least it breaks me out of the story. I am not paying attention to what's going on the screen. I'm paying attention to whether or not the CGI looks believable or not. And I will say that Quantumania, for the most part, at least the CGI is better done than some other like Marvel films that I've seen. So on that level, it doesn't take away from anything. But I don't know, as far as like the story goes, and they introduced a whole bunch of new characters, only one of which I actually liked. And it's like this little, I don't think this is a spoiler, but it might be, but there's like this little blob thing that I don't even remember what his name is or anything. Like he wasn't, it was like comedic effect more so than a character that I felt you were meant to pay attention to, if that makes sense. But he kind of is made up of the goo that you can drink in the quantum realm in order to understand all of the creatures, or at least all of the creatures are speaking English, which fine. But he was like the only character that came up that I thought was even moderately enjoyable, but he was there for the comedic relief, you know. And I don't know, for some reason, I know that this has been done in pretty much every single film, but for some reason, Paul Rudd, like narrating while he's just, I don't know what my deal is with like people and their facial expressions happening now, but it was what irritated me so much from Your Place or Mine with Reese Witherspoon, where she's like on the phone and she's clearly talking to no one, like she's probably on a set somewhere by herself. And so her face is just extremely animated because she has to show that she's having a conversation with someone, even though that when you're having a conversation with someone, probably your face is not doing gymnastics, you know, unless you're super excited about something. But that is kind of how I felt in this movie. Like every time that Paul Rudd was like narrating part of the story and it's just him walking down the street, his face is just doing so much that I feel like when you're thinking internally to yourself, your face is not doing a whole bunch of stuff, you know, like hopefully it's not. You look crazy. He looks crazy. I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed this one. It was fine. Like I said, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. It was right down the line. It kind of reminds me of, I don't know, like any of the 12 million Fast and the Furious movies, or some of the earlier stuff that The Rock used to do, anything that Gerard Butler does, except for Cop Shop. I really enjoyed that one. But like the majority of the time, it's just 2 hours of kind of mindless action, which has its place in the movie realm. You know, those films are made for a reason. We wouldn't be on the Fast and the Furious 812 if people didn't enjoy at least sitting down for a couple of hours to watch fast cars. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, for me, it's not a win. It's not a loss. It's mediocre. If you feel like it's worth paying money for, you can. It's one that I personally would have rather streamed, but I go to the theater mostly for the popcorn. And if there's a good film, then double yay. But I don't know. I hope Phase 5 is better. I know that this one, like the end credit scene, like sets up, I think, continuation for at least King the Conqueror to continue to be a villain. But I am hoping that they do better with him and better with the movies going forward, and that they stop kind of rushing them out and putting them out in a cookie cutter fashion, and that they go back to actually maybe enjoying what they're doing. And I think that extends to Hollywood as a whole. Stop doing reboots, stop doing, you know, these cookie cutter films, and actually get back to doing something with some passion behind it. I think that kind of shows when you show up with a movie like the new Avatar, where James Cameron clearly pours his heart and soul into that, and the audience responds to that. So that's really all I have to say about Antman and the Wasp: Quantumania. It's mediocre. I would wait to stream it. that's just me. So let me know what you guys thought of Antman Quantumania. Subscribe if you want to join the movie nerd family. You can find me on Instagram at Cinematic Sarcastic Podcast, and I hope to see you in the next episode.